In the quiet, idyllic town of Oak Ridge, a deep-rooted sense of unease had begun to settle over its residents. The source of this creeping disquiet was a phenomenon that had gradually infiltrated the lives of its people, a haunting presence that would come to be known as the Obsidian Watchers. It all began with hushed whispers and disconcerting stories that circulated among the townsfolk. Tales of encounters with shadowy figures, humanoid in shape yet devoid of facial features, began to circulate. These enigmatic beings, now dubbed the Obsidian Watchers, were said to lurk in the periphery of one's vision, evading direct gaze. They seemed to be perpetually shrouded in darkness, their inky forms obscuring any details of their identity. The residents of Oak Ridge first dismissed these stories as nothing more than overactive imaginations and an aversion to the darkness that had fallen upon the town. But as time went on, the tales of the Obsidian Watchers multiplied, each encounter more unsettling than the last. People spoke of waking in the dead of night to find the silhouettes of these beings standing beside their beds, silently observing their slumber. Some claimed to have seen them lurking in the corners of rooms, just beyond the reach of the feeble beams of flashlights and candles. The Watchers seemed to feed on the paranoia they instilled, their presence triggering a sense of dread that was impossible to shake. As the stories multiplied, so did the unease. It wasn't long before the town's once tight-knit community began to fracture. Neighbors became suspicious of one another, friendships eroded, and families were torn apart as paranoia festered like a disease. Among those who experienced encounters with the Watchers was Emily, a young artist known for her vivid imagination. She had always been a dreamer, but lately her dreams had taken a dark turn. Night after night, she would wake in a cold sweat, plagued by the sensation that something watched her from the shadows. Emily's art, once a vibrant expression of her creativity, had transformed into a series of disturbing and surreal paintings. Each canvas depicted the Obsidian Watchers, their featureless faces radiating malevolence. The townsfolk viewed her work as an eerie reflection of their own experiences, but Emily herself couldn't explain the compulsion that drove her to paint them. As the Obsidian Watchers continued to weave their web of paranoia, a desperate sense of unease settled over Oak Ridge. The townsfolk couldn't escape the relentless gaze of the shadowy figures, who seemed to grow bolder with each passing day. No one could explain the purpose or origin of these entities, and they began to wonder if they were manifestations of their collective fears. Emily, driven to the brink of madness, resolved to confront the Watchers. She believed that understanding their nature might offer a means of breaking the grip of paranoia. Armed with her artistic vision and a determination to face the source of her torment, she embarked on a solitary quest into the woods at the edge of Oak Ridge. As she ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The trees seemed to close in around her, their branches casting eerie shadows that danced in the twilight. Emily felt the Watchers' presence intensify, their inky forms appearing and vanishing among the trees. Emily's encounter with the Obsidian Watchers would become the stuff of legend in Oak Ridge. She stood face to face with one of these shadowy beings, her courage tested to its limits. In the silence of the forest, she sought to communicate with them through her art, hoping to understand their purpose. What followed was an unsettling exchange that transcended words. Emily's paintings took on a life of their own, coming to vivid, malevolent life before her eyes. The Watchers, it seemed, used her art as a conduit to manifest their desires, and she realized that they fed on the fear and paranoia they instilled in their victims. As Emily's vision of the Watchers came to life in terrifying detail, she found herself on the brink of despair. Her only hope lay in a desperate plea to break the cycle of fear that had plagued Oak Ridge. In a final act of defiance, she painted a scene in which the Watchers were consumed by their own malevolence, vanquished by the very fear they had sown. In a climactic confrontation, the Watchers recoiled in horror, their dark forms writhing and contorting as if consumed by their own shadows. The entity that had tormented the town of Oak Ridge was banished, disappearing into the very canvas that had brought it to life. The atmosphere in Oak Ridge shifted, and the residents, freed from the grip of the Watchers, slowly began to heal. The paranoia and dread that had torn the community apart started to dissipate. Emily's art, once a source of torment, was now a beacon of hope. A reminder that even in the face of insurmountable fear, the human spirit could prevail. The legend of the Obsidian Watchers lingered in the town's memory, a cautionary tale of how fear and paranoia could manifest and consume, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Oak Ridge, forever marked by its encounter with the Watchers, stood as a testament to the strength of those who confronted their deepest fears, banishing the shadows that had sought to overtake them.